Hello! It's me again. I've decided to do something new, something fresh. As many of you will know, a year and 4-ish months ago I released a video responding to the Birdman, who had taken it upon himself to do a reaction/response to Madvocat's coverage of him in his Spider-Man No Way Home video, as well as taking a look at his Doctor Strange video going over his inconsistent abilities and characteristics. And in my humble opinion, they were not very good videos. As a result, my response kinda blew up a little bit, and has so far remained the highest viewed video on my channel. So, firstly, thanks for that. Secondly, it also meant that due to its high viewership, it ended up attracting quite a few individuals who were less than pleased with my coverage. And with the release of Birdman's reaction to my video almost a year later, it then also meant that quite a few more of these lovely individuals decided to come and pay me a visit. Now, some of you may be expecting this video to be a direct response to Birdman's videos, continuing the trend of addressing the exact same points in a different fashion yet again. But that's not what I'll be doing here. At least, not yet. I'm still waiting to see if part 3 of Birdman's little saga is actually going to take shape. And who knows, maybe this video will just be some friendly encouragement. No, instead what this video will be is a look-see at some of the aforementioned individuals who decided to pay my video a visit and leave their oh-so-lovely comments behind for me to read, and possibly respond to. Just cause it's fun. But before we continue, I would like to make it clear what I mean when I say peasant quotes. There are quite a few people who have come from Birdman's channel and tried to have a dialogue with me. They have been quite civil and pleasant to talk to, even if some of them don't agree with my takes. That's all well and good. This video is not directed to them. It's more so aimed at the kind of people you would expect to be covered in content like this. People who don't exactly make it difficult to dislike them. You'll see what I mean as we proceed. I just thought I'd give that little disclaimer. I would also like to preface this by saying, if you are new and would like to have more context for what is going on, I would recommend watching Madvocat's video on No Way Home and then mine shortly after. I don't think there is any particular reason to watch Birdman's content before you do this, as I do cover both of his videos in full. But if you are keen, the link to them is in the description of my video covering him. With that out of the way, let's have a look at some of the best and brightest Birdman has to offer. Do be warned, there may be some inappropriate language ahead. He destroyed you with his response. Too bad Madvocat's audience don't care about opposing opinions, otherwise they would have watched his video themselves. That's an interesting point you have there. Considering that Madvocat's audience largely follows him for his Flash videos and don't particularly care about some year-old drama for a point he made in a Spider-Man video, it seems kind of odd that you would target his fan base when Birdman's latest videos are directed at me specifically. But, oh well, I guess there would be some overlap in our channels, right? I'll forever laugh at who are willing to respond to every comment on year-old drama, but not to those who don't treat them as perfect gods, because that would be too much for them to handle, like you and your fanbase. Well, I see what you mean. How could I possibly ignore such spellbinding arguments as presented before me? Funny thing about this comment is that it comes from YouTube Studio. Specifically, it is part of the comments that are held for review, because they contain inappropriate or offensive language. The thing with YouTube Studio is, after 60 days it automatically deletes comments that have not been manually given permission to exist. When it comes to comments such as this one, I don't actually get notifications that they exist. I have to go into Studio to check what's new, and as a result, I don't. I mean, I'm a pretty busy guy, all things considered. I don't really feel like spending my free time going into Studio to see what new and wonderful variations or slurs are being thrown my way, just because I haven't responded to you specifically. But if you are part of the group of kids who were held back, at least now you know why you can't see your comments. But to be fair, it also doesn't necessarily mean you said something that would count as offensive language anyways. Madvocate, who is actually my friend, gets his comments deleted all the time by YouTube despite not being overly offensive, so maybe you were just unlucky. I don't actually moderate my comments myself. I have never deleted a comment someone else has made, despite what many of you may think. I'm not actually scared of you or your cringe. I've spent quite a few hours of my time laughing at a lot of you, just in case you thought otherwise. Well then, thanks for the unnecessary 2.5-hour video on just one guy. The Birdman spends hours on his videos. Madvocate sounds like he's in a debate club. Damn man, they really got you there, didn't they? Birdman spends hours on his videos where he copies the format of the very person he is covering most of the time. I guess you and your month-long waits between videos due to how long they take to make just aren't cut out for this sort of thing. Seriously though, it is very funny how little effort these kinds of people think it takes to make videos like ours while claiming Birdman is working hard. But maybe I'm just biased. But wait, there's more. Unnecessary? Yes, Birdman does his research. He consults the sources on which the MCU is based, the comics. If Madvocate maybe watched the movie and took some notes, he'd have some valid points. It's his word against the source material and the established law of the MCU. I don't think that a video the length of a feature film saying that a guy who did his research is wrong. Sure, maybe he missed something. Maybe. But this whole debacle is mighty unnecessary. If someone else other than Birdman did a video covering the bases, characterization, basic human instinct, etc., and said person closely followed the MCU like he did, Madvocate would go after them instead. Like Jacob Harris 3002 said, "Now I know who to blame for his beef. We'd all be better off if you hadn't said anything to Madvocate at all, because it seems like he's countering both the film and the people who are Marvel fans, but apparently you can't have both. Madvocate was just flapping his gums, and whenever proof of the Birdman's points were presented, being the chucklehead you are, you leapt straight over it and fell flat on your face." Man, this guy was not having a good day. I don't really know what there is to say here, but I can try. Madvocate has stated before that he doesn't really care about comic accuracy. If the film is poorly written and contradicts its own lore and actively does damage to the world building set up in prior films, that's all that matters. Also, Keck W. If Madvocate rewatched the films and took notes, maybe he'd have a point. Well, he's got you there, dude. I don't know how exactly you are capable of script writing and editing a video for a film you haven't seen, but maybe my brain just isn't as big and smooth as theirs. 2 hours to get across a point that could have taken 15 to 20 minutes instead is wild. Comments like these are always fun, because it's basically just a self-report. They are letting others know they don't have an attention span to absorb information if it takes them longer than 15 to 20 minutes. It's wild to me that I'm expected to shorten my coverage of a topic that is about 45 minutes long when combining both videos' runtime, just so that I would likely be accused of cutting out context if I did that. I take as long as I need to say the things that I want to say. If you don't like that, then go away. You likely aren't subscribed anyways. I won in this video. Anyone can see that. Anyone arguing against what I said here has an agenda, is butthurt, or is lying. Well, Madvocate, you seem really confident with your position there. One might even think that you come off as a bit arrogant. I wonder if you may have received any comments suggesting such a thing. At Madvocate, saying blatantly that you've won shows how much insecurity you really have, because deep down you know that you have not won, and you're terrified that people will think otherwise. I'm sorry to confirm your fears, but in fact you haven't won any point in the debate. You know something, Danny? I agree. Proclaiming something like this does seem to highlight a certain insecurity in people who think they are just incapable of being wrong. It would be a crying shame if this wasn't something Madvocate was doing and was instead highlighting an incredibly funny copypasta. Can't believe this dude whose channel wouldn't even have worked if it wasn't for CinemaSins have this big of an ego. Well, this doesn't seem like it's aimed towards... Oh, right. I can't believe you made that up because you wanted an easy heart from another soulless movie reviewer. Well, that seems a bit harsh. I reckon I would have a soul if that did indeed exist. That also wasn't an easy heart. He had to wait at least 11 months before he got it. I've also noticed in his comments section that there are only comments of praising the Birdman and nothing else. I think he's deleting the comments that he doesn't like, obviously. Lol. Wouldn't even surprise me, to be honest. This comment isn't an example of a Birdbrain peasant, but rather something I wanted to address. Since I have been facing the, well, not really an issue, more like this situation of comments being withheld for review and deleted automatically after 60 days, it seems very likely that Birdman might have the same setup. If you have made a comment before and you can't seem to find it, maybe consider why it's been removed. It might have been inoffensive, but YouTube doesn't seem to be very consistent with its rules. My comments under his video is still visible to me, but maybe others can't see it. I'm not going to pretend like I know why this is the case. I would only encourage those of you viewing this to be more constructive in your criticisms and behave a little less like our next example. This is actual retardation and autism at play. Have fun with your dogshit 1k subs and 32k views that you only got thanks to Birdman. Quit YouTube, please, or at least quit doing the shit you do. No one cares and no one wants to watch you. Now don't get me wrong, there are a lot of Birdman takes that I don't agree with. But you make them look like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit with how bad your takes are. And if you really want to be good at debating people, you can't just ignore someone's points and arguments or just call someone a name and then don't even address the argument. That's what a literal child does. You argue like a child argues, and then all of your childlike friends all cheer and woo for you when you listen to a 3-minute explanation and counter arguments and just go, "You're a crack fiend," and then move on to the next argument. You're a literal fucking child. Grow the fuck up and stop being fucking cringe. You heard it here, folks. Apparently all I did in this 2-hour and 24-minute video was make childish insults and ignore his arguments. I'm sure there isn't a single viable one present. I'm also sure that I'm not the only one who noticed the irony and no one cares about my channel, despite the video having 32k views for a channel that only had 1k subs. I don't know if this means anything to you, Mr. Ken, but those numbers have gone up since you posted this comment, and I haven't been complaining. Hey fucker! Are you ignoring the Birdman's comment but happening to answer so many others while whining that I'd happily talk directly to him, fucking scumbag? I don't know, Kevin, maybe the exact same reason he didn't respond to my comments on his video despite talking to everyone else. Maybe he just didn't see it. However, the times that he has acknowledged me, he has blocked me, or his fans have banned me from his subreddits, or he has denied an opportunity to debate me directly, despite me being open for it. The more I think about it, the less I think our reasons align. Or maybe it's just coincidence. My guy, you made a 2-hour long video on a 26-minute video. All you did was yap and rant about pointless shit. Why did you expect Birdman to respond to it in its entirety? Also, I hate content creators like you. Instead of making good videos that could actually add to discussion, your videos thrive on hot takes and starting drama. You made a Spider-Man 2 video and you said it was bad, which is a hot take. For drama, you made a response video to a video that wasn't even about you, nor even mentioned you. You're just trying to start drama because you know your content is dog shit, and no one is going to watch it. Apparently you didn't quite catch any of the points or topics I brought up during those 2 hours of ranting. I guess when you basically just parrot talking points from the person who tells you how to think instead of consuming the content he is not even fully ingesting, you tend to spout the same malarkey as the rest of your brood. Congratulations, by the way, on being the unbiased, critical, and analytical viewer that I know all Birdman fans will have the capacity to be. By stating off the bat that you hate content creators like me, despite not being able to name any examples of what makes them bad. You say I don't make good videos, but don't list any reasons, making it a pretty bog-standard subjective opinion. Hell, you could have at least mentioned my audio. Every other member of your circus fandom decided I have never heard that before, so why not join in? Also, yeah, I have a few hot takes that I talk about for almost 3 hours. I've also managed to have quite a few people look at those films with different perspectives and become more critical of the media they consume. But then again, when your star media analyst thinks shows like The Mandalorian and the incredible last episode of Kenobi are quality products, maybe a hot take to you guys comes off more nuclear than it does for normal people with taste. Also, gotta love the idea that all I want to do is stir and cause drama when I am responding to a publicly accessible video that blatantly targets my friend. Apparently, this is an unheard of concept for particular people on the internet, where individuals who aren't necessarily linked to a particular event are capable of providing commentary about said event. Is this all what can be said about constructive criticism? What would happen if CinemaSins comes out one day and accuses Birdman of causing drama simply because he has been targeting, addressing, and criticizing him for years, going so far as to create 7.5-hour long compilation videos of him copying the same formats of Jeremy and using it against him? Maybe you guys actually have a point. Meat riding is crazy. I assume it would be, though I haven't partaken. Maybe if you didn't pause him before he can make his point, you say. Except you did the very same thing after his reaction was done for the other dude doing the same thing as well. None of you jokers listen to the opposing argument and still present a piss-poor argument and yell at the screen. It's hypocrisy. You are gatekeeping. You are. not Birdman. You notice that I left a reply under this comment. This reply is a timestamp to a segment in the video explaining why I think it's fine I can interrupt Birdman, but he can't. If you are curious, it's 1:25:50. As for the rest of this comment, I think it would be entirely appropriate for me to ignore it. They gotta have at least one win in this video, right? It's just so funny seeing one side using cheap, unoriginal offenses every 2 words to fill themselves with power, and the other one has empiric methods for their arguments and shit tons of evidence for it. You just wanted to make Birdman look like a god by comparison. And I don't even care for any of you. I'll be willingly waiting for your response to his latest videos though. You'll definitely make one because you're loving the clout you're getting, and you do sound like someone with the most fragile ego ever. I mean, you clearly don't care much for taking notice on people's arguments, but I'll be here for more of you humiliating yourself. Yes, I'm sure you've heard someone using the collection of insults I made up on the spot before. Maybe I should just stick to calling people idiots or retards or other variations of the word stupid. That really seems to get your knickers wound up. I'm personally a fan of the idea that Birdman used tons of evidence via an empiric method. It's not as if the very evidence he submitted counteracted his own claims in real time, such as the fact he used a wiki page which called the sling ring portals mystical as evidence of them not being magic, despite the 2 words being synonyms. I guess my own arguments and supporting evidence don't actually count because they helped me rather than make my arguments crumble. But then again, I don't live in a shoebox, so maybe having holes in your system is actually the correct way to do things. And speaking of my ego, you are right. I will be making a response to his 3-part mini-series that is responding to my year-old video that he has claimed to want to ignore because it was beneath him. I'm just waiting for the 3rd one in that 3-parter. How fragile of me to allow him all the time in the world to steal more oxygen. A bit sad that you, with no listening comprehension at all, can get so many people to agree with you. It is so insane. People in this community post also clearly did not see the other video. Thank you, man with AI-generated swastika PFP. I will take your comment very much to heart. Congratulations, fuckface. You got cooked back. I don't know if cooked is the right word to use here. Feels more like he made a bologna sandwich with a little bit of spicy mayo. The hilarious hypocrisy of you accusing Birdman of being a leech. You're doing exactly what you're accusing him of doing. Except your attempt to do so didn't get you the results you wanted. You tried to ride on his popularity punching up to try and get a boost. While it did work on a very small scale, it clearly didn't work enough, and that's why you haven't released a video in almost a year after you made your unnecessarily long "look at me" video about him. Get fucked, hypocrite. Apparently this person doesn't know how to do comparisons correctly. Somehow me making 1 2.5 hour video covering an individual is the exact same thing as marketing my entire brand and YouTube channel around covering one specific content creator, and doing this consistently for years. I also don't understand how what I did constitutes a failure. I'm a channel with, at this moment in time, less than 2k subs. When this video was released I had less than 400. It more than tripled my subscriber count and got me to monetize my channel. I see this as an absolute win. As for why it takes me so long to release my content, I don't know, man. Maybe something to do with having IRL responsibilities that take up my time. I've also released a new video covering a really bad review on Andor, which is now over 10k views, so I think I'm doing alright in that department. Also, if you guys couldn't tell, this was from studio a wee while ago. So I tried to give this video a chance, made it about an hour through. You made some good points, but the constant personal attacks are just unnecessary. And then you called Birdman an ape. Totally out of line, unnecessary, and over the top. Screw you and this video. I'm reporting it to YouTube and letting them know what's going on here. Be better than that. Now this comment really got me mad when I read it the first time. So much so that I had it saved in case it got deleted. This individual is one of 2 who tried to accuse me of calling Birdman an ape. This is an incredibly vile accusation as it insinuates that I am a racist character making racist remarks against an African American. I immediately confronted the individual, asking them for a timestamp in the video for when I said this. After an hour of not responding to me, I eventually looked into my script for any mentions of the word ape. When 0 confirmed results appeared, I tried looking up similar words. Chimp, monkey, gorilla, nothing. After confirming what I already knew to be true, I made it publicly clear to the simpleton that they were in some very hot water with me. I don't care what your personal disagreement is with me. You can think I'm a horrible critic or YouTuber or whatever. But the moment you accuse me of something like this, we are going to have a very big problem. The same thing goes for defenders of my content. If I see any of you pulling a similar stunt under Birdman's channel, do not expect me to support you. I do not tolerate this behavior. Speaking of despicable behavior, I'm not even going to read out these next few caps. This individual basically decided to stalk me on a large chunk of my content after initially responding to my Birdman video, even going as far as to say this. In case any of you were wondering if I had any particular reasons for making fun of these people, hopefully this individual nails that idea in the head. Bro, a lightweight shouldn't challenge a heavyweight and then say, "If you beat me up, you look like a bully." Third grade reverse psychology doesn't work in the adult world. If you challenge somebody, you're a contender, and you should prepare yourself for an ass whipping, or be confident enough that you can win the fight. This might be one of my favorite misconceptions about my video. Kev over here is referring to a segment where I make a jest that if Birdman were to take heed of a video from a channel with less than 400 subs at the time of its release, that I hope he enjoys getting through all of it, and that his anti-itch anal cream doesn't run out too quickly. I was prodding him to view the video, something he has failed to do now more than a year later, despite making 2 responses to me. I was specifically targeting his ego, playing around with the idea that he could not let a publicly known negative opinion about him slide. The idea that I didn't want him to respond is incredibly untrue, and I have repeatedly tried bringing it to his attention only to be blocked and banned as a result. If I'm really punching up above my weight class here, then why does it feel like I'm the one looking down at a group of man-children trying to beat up a straw soldier? Fruit for thought? Bruh thinks adding big words to an insult makes you seem funny and intelligent. More like corny and a tryhard. Retire from YouTube G League, kid. Well, if this isn't evidence that content isn't meant for everyone, then I don't know what is. But if you think ninny is a big word, then maybe you aren't old enough to have a YouTube account yet. Nothing you pointed out makes sense. Birdman never said any of these things. You put words in his mouth and then can't debunk any points he made. Your mic sounds horrible, so don't talk about production of Birdman, Zed. You must think quality is all about great cameras and microphones, which you are missing one. But quality is in the content itself. Channels like yours are a dime a dozen, clones that copy YMS. You think you're a mauler, but you are just another copycat who can't come up with original material. Birdman makes much better content than you or that copycat madvocate. Before critiquing others, have a look at yourself. Nuff said. Harsh words from a harsh man. Or maybe he's blind? I don't know who he thinks I'm covering in this video, if he thinks I'm making up arguments that Birdman said. Since I play basically every argument he makes and respond to it in real time, I wouldn't be a very good Mauler clone if I messed up the basics now, would I? I think that's a good place to wrap up, at least on the funny stuff. I do have one more thing I'd like to address. An example of someone coming from Birdman's channel who has tried to have a genuine dialogue with me, instead of anything else that you've seen above. One thing about this video that I found myself questioning was your criticism of what you called hindsight bias. I think your points about Strange having limited time and the spell requiring a great amount of concentration are valid. My issue is that Birdman's point about Doctor Strange looking into the future when Bruce crashes in is the same point Madvocate made in his video, that they should have used the forgetting spell before to deal with other threats. So wouldn't that be hindsight bias as well? And your arguments against Birdman would also work against Madvocate. It would take time and a great amount of concentration. In fact, given that messing with the spell mid-cast has the chance of making it unstable and destroying the multiverse, it would be even more important to do it with the least amount of risk possible. So hence why using it with an antagonistic foe like Thanos would not be a good idea. In addition, I would say that using it on the bad guy in Doctor Strange 1 would have been up to the Ancient One, as she probably decided it was too dangerous to use, which goes to Birdman's point of Doctor Strange being more reckless with magic. As we see with the apple, Strange is willing to experiment with magic he learns about, and I would guess forgetting the party was his testing of the forgetting spell, and the Ancient One was shocked upon learning Strange gave Thanos the Time Stone, though admitting it must have been for a reason. That seems to support that Strange is more willing to do risky things than the Ancient One if he is certain that it needs to be done, or if he is certain in his ability to do it properly. Strange probably came across the spell, thought it could be useful later, and tested it with the party. And in No Way Home, we see that he takes Peter into a secluded area and asks if he's ready before he starts casting it. So it definitely seems like he's taking precautions to ensure the spell is successful. And after the debacle, he tells Peter that he forgot that he's just a kid still, which at least to me is him admitting that he should have been more careful before starting it. Sorry I went off on a tangent there, but the points were regarding Doctor Strange and his magic's inconsistency. And it just seemed like your arguments against Birdman also apply to Madvocate, which weakens his arguments as well. Not a problem, my man. When it comes to discussing the usage of the forgetting spell, Madvocate is arguing that Strange had access to an ability that had zero negative consequences present as long as he did it right. By having Thanos forgetting the reason for his search for the stones, you would effectively end his future invasions till he either remembers his purpose again, or our heroes come up with a more permanent solution, like killing him or having Doctor Strange putting his army in the mirror dimension. Based on what we see in No Way Home, Strange can use the spell with little to no setup needed. It doesn't take very long and he isn't left vulnerable as a result from overexerting himself. These are all risks that are present with the Time Stone and don't guarantee an immediate victory. The Memory spell is a guaranteed victory. The only risk presented against the usage of the spell was changing the parameters mid-cast. However, something you need to consider here is that No Way Home was dealing with Peter Parker, an anxious teenager who didn't have all the rules regarding the spell explained to him before he agreed to the parameters. Doctor Strange was also by himself. This isn't the case in Infinity War. Wong is present during the discussion, and every member is an adult who is shown dealing with the predicament in rather mature fashions. The likelihood of one of them panicking that Thanos wouldn't remember who they were is so laughably low that it might as well be zero. Trying to argue that the Ancient One is the only individual privy to this knowledge, despite Wong being the guardian of the library, doesn't necessarily matter. There is no feasible reason for why she shouldn't be using the spell on Caecilius, since it is basically a win button, and she wants to stop him anyways. The spell is safe enough for sorcerers to use casually after a night of drinking during a celebration as a prank against Wong. It is very much not that dangerous in the hands of a skilled master of the craft who has lived for hundreds of years. Arguing against Strange's recklessness isn't a viable solution either. He was bound by a sacred oath to protect the stone. Going against that oath is something he would never be doing. And the Ancient One understands this. She viewed him as the best of her guild and holds him in high regard, which is why she gives Banner the stone. The Ancient One is no stranger to risk either, since she taps into the Dark Dimension for her power, using techniques that are even banned in her sanctuary to protect her reality despite being a hypocrite. Suggesting that Strange would only come across the spell late in his career, despite regularly being shown and told that he's advancing faster than any other student, doesn't make much sense here either. However, even if you wanted to make that argument, Wong knows about the spell and would encourage its usage. I don't mean to sound rude when I say this, but most of the people who have come into my comments after Birdman's video released haven't convinced me that they have seen these films, at least in a while, let alone my videos. The above commenter is a very respectful individual, and I am glad to have had this dialogue. But with that said, it just makes me wonder why I need to explain the films in such a basic fashion. Most of these arguments are trying to retcon established characters with newer additions that are just dreadful for the overall story. I understand being a fan of this franchise, but is it not incredibly draining on your mental to do so many gymnastics to have this story make sense to you? I'd personally prefer it if I could just laugh at everything falling apart at the seams. Then again, Birdman is a Marvel fan. It would only be correct to assume the same of his audience. And that's that. Thanks for watching. This is a new format that I'd like to implement in the future for quicker videos that can keep you satiated till the bigger projects are out. No point in me going dormant again, else I get nothing done. See ya.